Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's officially November and I have seemed to miss the beginning of winter, I guess, at least here. Like today in the morning there was literal snow on the rooftops, so that's crazy. Anyways, I'm happy to be back. It was a lot of things to do in October and I just had to take a little bit of time off. Otherwise probably my brain would have exploded. But you know, I'm super happy to be back. I am refreshed and ready for winter and winter wardrobes and everything that comes along with that. Whenever this video comes out, there will be a huge Black Week sale on my shop, so don't forget to check it out. And I know there are a lot of controversies around AI patterns and stuff like that, but do be assured that all of my patterns are completely 100% handmade by myself only, so you can always be sure that you get whatever is, you know, pictured and whatever is described on my item descriptions. There is no AI involved, so I just wanted to put that out there. You can always be sure of that. Today we're going to make a super easy but very cozy raglan sweater, and I am super excited to make this. Actually, I'm wearing a raglan sweater as well, but this one is knit. So we're going to make one from knitted fabric, which is probably more accessible than a, you know, knitted sweater like this. I can make a tutorial on this sweater as well. I made it myself as well, so if you're interested in knitting or crocheting, just comment down below. I am happy to also expand my tutorials to that. I'm doing that non-stop in my free time anyway, so if you're interested, just pop in the comments down below and, you know, we can do that in the future maybe. I chose this beautiful rib knit in this gray melange kind of tone. I think it's very pretty. I think it's gonna end up looking super cozy. If you are wondering what kind of knit fabric this is actually a fabric that is usually used for, you know, ribbed hems and stuff like that. It comes in a roll like this, or, you know, it gets cut off in a roll like this because this fabric is knitted obviously on a machine in the round. So it only is this wide, but I cut it open on one side and doubled the width, and since we only need one back, one front, and so on and so forth, it works for this pattern. I specifically, you know, watched out for that, so you can use a rib knit that is, you know, usually used for ribs. Let me just measure this. I think this is 40 centimeters, but just so that you know what we're working with, 36. I guess it's supposed to be 40 or 35. Let's just say 36 because that's exactly how much this measures. So I cut open one side and made it double the length, and then obviously cut everything out from there. Alternatively, you can use any knit fabric, that works as well, but I specifically wanted to go for the rib knit look like this. I think this looks really nice. Another alternative is you can actually use the pattern to knit the sweater yourself, like by hand. It is a guide as well, so if you're interested in that, you can you can knit the panels and then put them together. It's gonna take some time, but you can do that obviously. We're gonna sew today, and sewing means very fast, so we're gonna have a super speedy process, and I am probably going to use my overlock and elastic threads. I have some elastic threads from a project last year. I'm just not sure if I have one in the color that I need. I have green, red and pink, but not gray. Well, then I guess we're not gonna use elastic threads, but an elastic stitch. Would have been easier. Wait, okay, never mind. I have gray. Good thing I have a stash of everything. So I'm using Seraflex, which is an elastic thread. You can obviously use whatever company you want. I just happen to have one by this brand. So this is super cool because it actually is a stretchy thread. Like, this is perfect for this project. Although alternatively, you can obviously just use an elastic stitch, which would have been my option too. So let's get going. Let's start. So we need the sleeves right here. You can find on the upper portion of the sleeve what the front and what the back is, so you definitely need to watch out for that because otherwise it doesn't go together. I am going to put right sides together here for the raglan. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna do, as I said before, an elastic seam with the elastic thread that I have, and I'm also going to overlock that. Now, if you have the option to do an elastic seam and overlocking at the same time, you can also do that. I wouldn't suggest to just overlock it because the overlock seam is not made to hold tension, so it's not strong enough and it can just easily rip. So let's go ahead and sew this. I just noticed while I was overlocking my seams right here how my transport is not fast enough for the knit that I'm using. So I changed it up and you can clearly see the difference it made. This is very wobbly because it was transporting my fabric as per usual for non-stretchy fabrics. Here I doubled the speed of how much it transported the fabric while serging, and I think it looks so much better. So if you have an option on your overlock machine to transport faster or to you know, just up the speed a little bit, do that for knits. It just makes such a nice finish, and this is how it would end up looking like otherwise. So this is now very nice. It's stretchy because of the thread that I used, and we're going to iron the seam allowance into the sleeves. So for wobbly seams like this, it's fine. You can still iron it flat and nice, no problems there. It's obviously just a little nicer to have the correct settings. And now we can already put our back piece on. So we're just gonna do exactly the same thing. Put right sides together and close the back raglan seams right here. You should now have an almost like flat looking sweater. So let's also iron the seam allowance into the sleeves here. And I like to finish the neckline now because I just feel like it's easier to get to the space, I guess. So that's what we're gonna do. Nice. So neckline. I have the neckline parted into two pieces, front and back. The shorter one is the back because we have less of a sloped down neckline, and in the longer one for you to remember. And these are 10% smaller than the neckline of the piece itself. So I am going to put these together first. So I'm going to put right sides together and close the shoulder point seams right here. I did not overlock this piece because we're gonna fold it in half and then you're not gonna see the inside. But I want to iron the seam allowance open to make it flat, or as flat as possible, I guess. Same to the other side. And now I wanna just fold them in half, wrong sides together. You're gonna find the notches for the front and the back. So these need to go together, then obviously the seam needs to match up as well with the seam allowance laying open. I'm just gonna pin it real quick to be able to have everything match up and then to iron. Okay, and now I'm gonna go around the piece and iron the fold line in without stretching it too much. Like so. And this is now ready to be sewn onto my neckline. So I have my front side, which goes together with the longer of the two sides, and then I have my back, which goes together with the shorter of the two sides. So I'm gonna check that this is the correct side, which it is, and now I'm gonna find the notch in my center front of my neckline, which is right, where is it? I think it's this. If you can't find it, just put the raglan sleeve seams together and, you know, put the notch in. Sometimes I'm doing that with the roller, the rotary cutter, and if I don't press enough, it just doesn't go in. But that's fine, I found it now. So it goes together with the center front notch, and then the seam itself does not go together with the raglan seams. It goes together with the shoulder notch, which is marked in the pattern. So don't mess this up because otherwise the neckline just doesn't fit anymore. So I'm gonna put that together with that shoulder notch. Then the center back goes together with the center back notch of the back piece right here. And same again, the seam goes together with the shoulder notch in the raglan sleeve. And you can see the collar is smaller, which is on purpose. So I'm going to stretch and pin the rest together so everything fits nicely. I am mostly checking that all of the seam allowances end up at the same spot, like they all match up here, because it quickly just, you know, moves underneath the sewing machine and then you don't catch all 3 layers. And I also like to, you know, put a pin into the seam allowance of the raglan sleeve just to make sure that it goes into the sleeve while sewing. It also just likes to move into the direction of the seam, like however you sew, it just likes to move in that direction. So if it needs to lay against that direction, it's easier if you just pin it down beforehand. That makes sense. Okay, all is fixed into place, so we can go ahead and sew this and overlock. And that is the collar now on. Let's go ahead and iron it flat. I like to, or more or less the only way to iron this, iron the seam allowance towards the body of the sweater, because otherwise it's just gonna bulk up and it's not gonna work. Just make sure to keep everything flat and nice so that everything also lays nice. And that is why I also like to do this while these side seams are still open. You can just access this area way easier. It's super nice to be able to iron this on a flat surface rather than everything just being closed up. It's just nicer this way. Okay, and now you can decide whether you want to leave this as is, or if you want to add a neckband, which goes onto the seam allowance just in the back, like right here, with a kind of twill tape like this, and it just gives the neckline in the back a little bit of structure and strength. So I'm going to try it. I've never done this before either, so fingers crossed. I am going to sew this on first onto the seam allowance only. So I'm going to start on one side and fold everything out of the way and, you know, have it only sit on the seam allowance. I'll have to check how far I need to go, because I only want this to sit until the beginning of the raglan sleeve, and I also want to have a nice even distance to the seam that I did for the collar. So that is something that I need to, you know, watch out for. So I'm just gonna sew this on from here to here where the collar, where the raglan sleeve seam is, this section. And with this now on, obviously this is now not stretchy in this direction anymore. I am going to iron this again, kind of into shape, like so. And now I am going to pin it in place and hopefully evenly top stitch this on. And I might do this from the right side because I have room of a centimeter, should be fine, 1.2, and yeah, 1.2, and I'll catch it still all around. So if I measure from the neckline, sewing from this side, if I measure 1.2 centimeters down, I should still be able to catch the twill tape on the inside. So I'm just in case, I'm just going to mark it. I just want to be precise here, like this. And I'm gonna sew from the raglan sleeve seam here to the other side. Fingers crossed that I, you know, do this nicely and catch everything. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is what it ended up looking like. I guess it's nice. Let's just remove the markings right here. This is a little bit messy here, but I think I can live with this. Yeah, that's fine if I just move it around a tiny bit and no folds can be found here. So this is what it looks like from the right side. This is what it looks like from the inside. A nice little neckband just to, you know, give the back a little bit of strength, like so. And we can go ahead and finish the side seams. So let's just put right sides together of back and front, and then the sleeve side seams. The underarm must meet, so I'm gonna add a pin on both sides just to hopefully make a perfect intersection here, and the rest I'm just gonna match up under the sewing machine. Let's go ahead and close the side seam and overlock it. The seam allowance I want to iron towards the back, all the way through into the sleeve. And with that, it's only the hem and the sleeve hem to do, and that's not such big of a deal. So already looks like a sweater, which is really nice. So let's go ahead and put together the sleeve hem and the hem. For the sleeve hem, you have 2 sleeve hem pieces, which we are going to put together like the neckline. So we're just gonna fold them in half and close the shorter sides. And while we're doing that, we can also put the hemline together. So you have 2 pieces, those are the side seams. So you also just want to put the side seams together like that. Do not overlock, we're going to iron them open as well. And same with the neckline, let's iron the seam allowances open. And also this needs to be folded inwards. I'm gonna match up the seams, and then I have 2 notches, one for the center front and one for the center back in my knit and then also in my sweater. So those need to get matched up. You guessed it already. And it works kind of the same with the sleeves as well. So let me just quickly prep this one. I want to iron the fold line in the hem as well. Okay, like that. That gets sewn onto the hem. And then for the sleeves, kind of the same. Ironing open and then folding this in half. And then you're gonna find the sleeve hem notch in both the sleeve hem and the sleeve hem, which should be somewhere in the center. It's right here. Okay, also prepped. And the last one is also done. So let's go ahead and attach these. Let's start with the sleeves because I like them less. I have my sleeve right here. It doesn't matter which side is front and which side is back. The side seam of the hem goes together with the side seam of the sleeve. And just make sure to keep the seam allowance in the same way that you prepped it. So you want to have it ironed towards the back, which is not what I just did, this way. And then you're gonna find a notch in the sleeve hem. This goes together with the notch in your sleeve hem. So, and the in-between gets matched up again. The sleeve hem is 10% smaller than the actual circumference of the sleeve hem. This just makes everything lay nice. It's a usual, thing that you do with hems. So just make them 10% smaller and you're good, like that. And I'm also gonna prep the hem so that it's out of the way. The side seams of the hem obviously go together with the side seams, and the center notch, doesn't matter if it's front or back, they're both in the same spot, go together with the center respectively. And same again, just make sure that your seam allowance faces the correct way while sewing it on, so towards the back, and the in-between gets matched up again. And once that's done, I'm ready to sew. Okay, let's go ahead and sew the hems on sleeves and, hem, and overlock as well. And the last step is obviously also to iron. I am going to iron everything away from the hemline because it just wouldn't work otherwise. And with that, the sweater is done. Obviously, if you don't like this big of a cuff, this is on purpose. You just, make the cuff smaller than you maybe have to gather before you sew this on, or you can stretch and sew. It depends on how much you actually want to adjust this. But I think this looks really, really cute. It's an oversized look overall, so I think this works out fine. And I really like the embroidery on top of it. I think the sweater in a ochre or a brick red would also look really nice with this embroidery on top, but I think the gray just makes it pop even more, and you can never go wrong with gray. So yeah, I am really happy with how this ended up looking like. And I just noticed that my mic was off, so sorry for that. For the outro you're gonna get nice tone quality, I guess. so sorry. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you'll get notified every time that I post. I post Mondays. Not every Monday, but Mondays. If you haven't already, please also check out all of my socials. I'm doing short format content all around my projects. So I'm doing sewing hacks, tips and tricks, you know, stuff like the most direct way to support me and keep videos just like this one coming is to hop over to my Etsy store. And as I said in the very beginning, if you're watching this in end of November 2025, there is a huge sale going on. It's a Black Week sale, and I'm gonna have, you know, Black Friday sale, Cyber Monday sale, Cyber Monday week sale, and stuff like that, like the whole thing. So do check out all of my patterns. As I said in the very beginning before, none of my patterns are AI. They're 100% handmade by myself, quality checked by myself. I sew all of my patterns at least once so that I can obviously film the tutorial and check that it fits and everything works out and so on and so forth. So you'll always get what you pay for. If there are any issues with the PDF download, I don't have power over that because it's 100% automated by Etsy. So if you have any issues with that, I sincerely apologize. It's not my fault per se. I am working on, you know, getting the pattern to you if you contact me, but please, before anything, do contact Etsy and, you know, make sure to figure it out that way because I'm just getting flooded with messages otherwise and I can't, you know, keep up with that. So again, so sorry if you haven't gotten your files yet. That is an issue that has been reoccurring in the last couple of weeks a little bit more. Hopefully Etsy fixes it, and yeah, if nothing works out for you, do contact me over my Etsy and, you know, customer service, and yeah, we'll make it work. And lastly, a big thank you to my channel members. That is a different way to support me. So you can also hit the join button down below. And also, if I don't know if you've noticed that, but you can hype this video. If you hype my video, it just gets, you know, out to more people who might not be familiar with my channel or my content yet. So thank you so much for all of your support, commenting, liking, sharing, hyping, anything. And with that, thanks so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you another Monday. Bye guys!